Hi, today we're going to retopologize a character using my new add-on called Bulldozer. It's actually a set of 3 add-ons combined into a single tab and panel. Here are the 3 tools we get. The first one is Buldozer Patch. When we open it, we see that the red button is inactive. First, we need to select the high poly mesh we'll be working with. As you can see, the character is split into parts, several meshes across several objects, so we'll select each one as we go. In this case, let's take the jacket as an example, and do the retopology on it first. You can easily pick it with the eyedropper or select it from the list. To start the retopology, we need to create a new retopo mesh. Oh, I forgot to mention, when we press this button, an additional menu opens. There are quite a few settings here. Fine-tuning options, that lets you customize the tool to your workflow. There's also a description here of how the add-on works and all its hotkeys. Alright, let's go. We create a new retopo mesh. Done, and get to work. When we activate the tool, we see the button light up. Once it's on, to avoid any confusion, let's close this panel. Press the button and the label appears at the top of the viewport. This means the working mode is active. If I hold Alt and move the model, the mode is temporarily suspended, so we can orbit the view however we like. Let's start building. To build, I simply click with the left mouse button. You can see these values. They're just the number of points I've placed, i.e. the number of edges. We can put whatever shapes we need. If I double click, the color of the line changes. Now in tricky areas like these, for example, we can place lots of points. Their number doesn't matter. They simply snap to the high poly model. Double click and the line changes color again. Now one more double click and we get a patch like this. The mouse wheel changes the number of sections. I scroll the wheel up and down to add horizontal sections, and if I hold Control, I get vertical sections. This way you can very quickly adjust the number of polygons we're building. As you can see, the yellow line connects automatically, but I can still move it, which means I can tweak it however I need. If I press the right mouse button, the preview mesh becomes real geometry, and that's not all. The center of the patch is detected automatically and smoothed out without affecting the border edges. We've built, so you'll always get a clean, smooth mesh. It sometimes happens that when doing retopology, some polygons come out distorted. But I've accounted for that case too, and added this button by default. It's enabled. It recalculates the entire retopo mesh, so your mesh never ends up fragmented and always stays neat. The Patch tool has the rules of manual retopology built in. But first, note that we no longer need to count the connections. We just click, and a guideline attaches to that point. Double click, then guide the mesh wherever you like. I emphasize we count nothing like this. 10 edges here means 10 edges there. As many as we need. Right click, and we get a beautiful mesh. If I hold Shift and simply move the cursor, you can see the polygons getting smoothed out. If I hold Control plus Shift in this mode, I can move individual vertices wherever I need. For finer adjustment, now I'll show you what. The rules of manual retopology mean we only want quads. No triangles or n-gons. That means we can build any mesh. Let's make the mesh a bit denser. It often happens. that we need to create transitions from larger polygons to smaller ones. I built an algorithm into the add-on that automatically calculates the trapezoids. For such transitions, it doesn't matter how many polygons are on this side and how many on that side. The add-on connects them. For example, let's take this edge here and this one here. As you can see, the trapezoids are built automatically. What's more, I can scroll the mouse wheel to add vertical edges. But as you can see, the trapezoids themselves stay intact. It's perfect. You can also connect absolutely any number of polygons on this side with any number of polygons on that side. How does it work? There are the 3-to-1, 5-to-1, 2-to-1 rules, and so on. All of them are already built into the add-on. For example, we can connect like this, and we can see it builds everything correctly. Besides that, the add-on has a smart algorithm that lets you build complex meshes like this one. When the model has lots of curves and irregularities, it's better to build patches in smaller sections, because if we build it all at once, like this for example, the add-on sees all these edges. And sometimes the mesh builds correctly, sometimes it doesn't. That's why the smaller the area, the easier it is for the add-on to understand and read the shape of your high poly model and how its curves flow. Here we got a perfect result with these lines. Here we can fix it. Hold shift and smooth the mesh as needed. Now about symmetry. If your model sits at the world origin and is completely symmetrical, you can simply enable symmetry here and choose world. We can also enable the symmetry line display. You can see the symmetry line passing through our selected object. And now we can create patches symmetrically. We got a perfectly symmetrical patch. But what if, say, the model is offset from the world axis? Then we simply switch from world to local mode and see where the symmetry sits. In this case, the position matches the world coordinates, and it's very close to true symmetry. We can also place a custom symmetry point if we want to make a completely asymmetrical object. Here's how. Turn it on, and the symmetry now works from this point. I've covered all the possible ways of creating symmetrical patches. To hide the symmetry line, just click the eye icon here to turn it off. If we need to disable symmetry, we click on Symmetry. There are a few extra sliders here related to smoothing. This radius controls the smoothing strength, and the auto stitching slider automatically connects the vertices of adjacent patches. The defaults are set to values that work perfectly, so I recommend leaving them as they are. Also, when we build a patch, we can see that in this case, only one polygon is created. Of course, we can increase that number. I recommend increasing it manually because it's much more convenient and gives you more control. But we can also raise this value. And build, by default, a mesh with a large number of polygons. It also lets us roll back. I prefer starting with a single polygon and increasing the value from there. It's more convenient, which is why the default is 1. There's one more mode, the round patch mode. How does it work? For example, if we just drag out, enable round patch and drag, we get a single stretch polygon. But if we scroll the mouse wheel, the vertical lines are arranged in such a way that the outer edges become rounded. If we hold Control, we can see that on both sides. An actual circle is formed. In this case, the surface isn't very even, so we get a somewhat wavy circle. If we pick a flatter surface, we'll see that the circle comes out much rounder. If I hold Control, I can stretch this circle however I need. For example, into this oval shape. If I press Control plus Shift and scroll the wheel, I can rotate this circle or oval however I need and create round patches like these. For eyes, for example, for ears, and for other round areas like that, by pressing spacebar, I can switch between these patch modes. And by enabling polyline mode, I can keep building the mesh. And so on. I've shown you how to do retopology using the Buldozer Patch tool. It's a really powerful tool. You may never even need these settings except symmetry. So feel free to collapse this panel so it doesn't get in your way. Now let's move on to the Buldozer Tube tool. This tool also has its own advanced section with additional settings, but I recommend leaving it on auto. Two cross sections, vertical and horizontal, were built automatically. I also recommend enabling control points. Here you can also see how this tool is configured, how to use it, and which hotkeys it uses. It's all really simple. Just like before, we point it to the object we'll be working with and enable drawing mode. A small red indicator lights up here, showing that the mode is active. I made it small on purpose, so it's not too distracting, but still visible. How does this tool work? We draw a line across our model. The model is curved, so the line bends here. If we draw it all the way to the end, the line straightens out. There are control points here that we can move. You can drag them while holding Control plus Shift. For finer adjustment of the line, if we hold Control, we can redraw this line. So holding Control lets us redraw the line exactly the way and exactly where we need it. That's really handy. Now that we've drawn the red line, we need to draw the blue one. That's the boundary line. No need to hold anything, we just draw it with the left mouse button. There are curved areas here, so the line didn't come out quite right. We can redraw it or manually move the control points as needed, and if we want to redraw the entire blue line without moving the points by hand, we can simply redraw it while holding the left mouse button. We can redraw it as many times as we like. Sometimes models are quite tricky, and in the middle of the model, for example, where an arm bends, the line breaks. If we hold Shift and draw here, we can draw the middle line, the yellow one. It allows for much more precise adjustment. If we have a long arm or another long cylindrical object, the yellow line often helps align the center. If I scroll the mouse wheel, the number of polygons increases or decreases depending on the scroll direction, but be careful with this, especially on uneven surfaces like this one. As we increase the count, the guides can sink inside the model. If we keep scrolling, the mesh will penetrate the surface, then get built incorrectly. The yellow line is optional on right-click. The mesh is built, just like with Buldozer Patch. The mesh is built, and now I want to extend it. How do we do that? It's very simple. We can continue drawing the red line anywhere near the existing mesh. We press the middle mouse button, and our red line snaps to the existing mesh. The control points disappear, since they're no longer needed. The red line and its points now follow the existing mesh. And now, if we keep building and draw the blue line, we can see that there are points on this side that we can move and none on the other side. Now let's move on to the Buldozer Cap tool, which lets you close off the mesh. It's an essential tool for finger retopology. For example, here, using the Buldozer Tube tool, there's a description here as well of how it works, but it's very simple, so you'll get the hang of it right away. For example, let's build the retopology. For a cylindrical object such as a finger, we've built a mesh. Previously, doing this by hand, closing off the mesh took a very long time. On parts like these, now it can be done in a couple of clicks. We select the boundary edges, press this button, and they're capped. By default though, they close quite abruptly. It basically cuts that part off flat. Using the sliders, we can increase the polygon count and make the cap much cleaner. We can then switch to the Bulldozer editing mode and smooth or move the vertices to exactly where they should be. And then just like that, we've retopologized a finger. In a couple of clicks, with my new add-on, you'll be able to do retopology with great quality and really fast.